Folks, welcome back. I have your latest home prices and insights for Peel and Durham region for week ending November 23rd, 2022. Let me tell you about a recent transaction I had that has me shaking my head, and I see this often. We're working with a buyer client, and there's a house that we saw. It was priced just right up against 1.9. So for sake of argument, it was priced at 1.9. And after doing our analysis of what this home should probably sell for, and it had been on the market for a while, it should probably sell for about 1.7. So we put in an offer. My client wanted to start even lower than that. We went in at 1.6. There's a few counter offers back and forth. And we're a little bit of a stalemate. My client is not quite up to 1.7 yet. The seller side is not quite down to 1.7 yet. And there's lots of verbal conversations between myself and the listing agent, both of us negotiating back and forth. Finally, I get the seller, through their listing agent, to agree verbally that they would accept 1.7. I speak to my buyer client. I said, look, they'll take 1.7. We just have to counter back at that if you're okay with that. Well, after long thought about it, my client decided they no longer want this house. Or at the very least, they don't want it for 1.7, but they didn't want the house anymore. So we kind of pulled out of the transaction altogether. But I knew they were prepared to sell at 1.7. About a week later, the home sells, sold for $1,750,000. And I pull up the MLS listing through my realtor site, through Treb, and I could see that the listing agent is also the co-op agent, the buyer's agent. So the listing agent double-ended this transaction. In other words, he represented the seller and the buyer. It's a myth if you're looking to buy. I know a lot of buyers believe if they go directly to the listing agent, they'll get a better deal. That's a myth. I'm telling you, it's just not true. Now, we do, our team, Team Sessa, we do a fair bit of transactions, but it's about half and half between selling and buying. So we know the strategies quite well for both sides. I can tell you that the listing agent for that property, his job, and every listing agent's job who sells the property, their job is to work in the best interests of the seller. It's not just a saying, that's their job. They've got that in the listing agreement. They have a fiduciary responsibility to work in the best interest of the seller. So if you're a buyer looking to buy, when you're going directly to the listing agent, what you're actually doing without realizing is you're kind of going, Mr. or Mrs. Real Estate Agent, I know your job is to work in the best interest of the seller, so please help me get a good deal on this house. It makes no sense. It makes zero sense. And in the example that I just gave you I got them to 1.7, but yet they sold it for 1,750. That buyer, here's the worst part, that buyer believes they got a good deal from 1.9 to 1,750. They believe they did such a good thing for themselves and their family. And it's a mistake. Your best opportunity to get the best price on a house is to have a good realtor that's strong at negotiation, that understands the market and what's happening with prices, that could advise you properly on prices and help you negotiate those prices. That's your best chance of getting a good deal if you're looking to buy. If you think this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. Let's get into the numbers. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, It's really simple. Below this video, in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you. This way, I'll know ahead of time and I'll make sure my schedule's organized so we could talk about whatever's on your mind. Let's get into the numbers. Here's a quick summary of where average prices are sitting at for Mississauga, for the green line here, that's Brampton, and the burgundy, that's Durham. For Durham, I'm using Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby as my Durham sample. Let's get started with Mississauga. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And these numbers here represent, just for Mississauga, detached properties only, broken down by week for a whole year. 38 detached properties were sold in Mississauga for week ending November 23rd. 6 of those were at $2 million or more, so we had a fairly busy week in Mississauga with 6 selling at $2 million or more. Average sold price jumped way up to $1,522,000, and for sure, the big reason for the jump is 6 properties selling at $2 million or more. Now, part of this whole video that I put together is spotting trends. That's the whole point, is what trend are we on? Are prices going down? Are they going up? Where the trend is? Well, what a lot of people have in their mind is, oh, prices are down, prices are going down. It just seems like just automatic, like a reflex. What's going on with the market? Prices are going down. Well, that would be true if we're comparing to the beginning of the year. Prices have come down quite a bit, but the trend is here. It doesn't matter what happened 6 months ago, a year ago, makes no difference. It is interesting information. But if you are looking to transact, you're looking to buy or sell, what's happening right now or very recently is more important than anything else. So I'll get to that in a second. $1,522,000 is the average sold price for detached properties in Mississauga. 1,522 is 7% lower than last year's average sold price. The median price of $1,313,000 is 10% lower than last year's median price. But here's the trend. Let's look at the dotted line. The dotted line is a 4-week moving average. Makes it easier to spot a trend, or simpler to spot a trend, and it helps eliminate the peaks and valleys. So the 4-week moving average for average sold price kind of seems like it's slightly trending upwards over the last few months. So, and I've got 3 months on the board here. The median price for Mississauga looks like it's just slightly creeping downwards for the span of 2.5 to 3 months. So that's the trend right now. Year-to-date sales, we have 38% fewer sales this year versus last year. Of the 38 that sold, not many, 18% sold at list price or more, so not many. 6% fewer listings in Mississauga this year versus last year, and months of inventory has come down a little bit, sitting at 2.1 months of inventory. That's Mississauga. Let's look at Brampton. 26 detached properties were sold. Only 1 property sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price jumped way up. It's now at $1,238,000. 1,238 seems high for recent sales figures, but it's still 13% lower than last year's average sold price. The median price of $1,194,000 is also 13% lower than last year's median price. What's the trend? Well, the 4-week moving average for average price looks like average sold price for Brampton over the last 2.5, 3 months has been trending up. Not up, but just it's a slight, it's creeping up. And the same looks like for the median price, average sold price. Actually, it's kind of hard to tell. It's either been creeping up or pretty steady. It hasn't changed much. But we have 47% fewer sales of detached properties in Brampton this year versus last year. 47%. It's a huge, huge difference in volume. 11% fewer listings and months of inventory. Wow, if we go back to the beginning of October, every single week, months of inventory has been climbing. It is now sitting at 4.1 months of inventory, very much in a balanced type of market. Let's look at the Durham region. And again, I'm using Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby as my Durham sample. 35 detached properties were sold. One of those was at $2 million or more. Average sold price came down to $1,070,000. $1,070,000 is one of the lower weeks that we've had all year for average sold price. $1,070,000 is 19% lower than last year's average sold price. The median price is $1,035,000, and that's 14% lower than last year's median price. Looking at the 4-week moving average, well, for average price, doesn't look like it's changed much. If we look at the gray line here as a guide of the 1.1 million, we're slightly under, slightly over, we're hovering up. It's just sitting around there. The median price looks like it might be creeping up a little bit. We have 33% fewer sales in the Durham region this year versus last year. Almost a third, 31% of the 35 sold at list price or more. 2% fewer listings year to date. And sorry, forgive my clicker here. Months of inventory sitting at 1.5. It's for the last couple of weeks been coming down. Condos, this is for all of Peel region. These are condo apartments, not condo townhouses, condo apartments. 26 were sold, none sold at $1 million or more. Average sold price has been coming down. It's now sitting at $577,000. $577,000 is 5% lower than last year's average sold price. Median price of $564,000 is 4% lower than last year's median price. The year-to-date sales, 38% fewer sales this year versus last year, and 1% fewer listings for condos in Peel region. Months of inventory sitting at 3.9. Average days on market is 33. We're also sitting in a balanced market when it comes to that. When it comes to condos in Peel region. Here's a summary of months of inventory. It's still surprising, to be honest, that we know what the feeling is in the field from working with buyers and sellers and being on the market, being on the road, dealing with actual real estate transactions. It's kind of hard to believe that Whitby, Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby, and Mississauga, the months of inventory are still as low as they are, because the feeling out there does feel very much like a balanced market. It's difficult sometimes to understand. The numbers don't always tell us the reality of being on the ground, and well, that's what we're seeing. It's very much a balanced market. However, there are pockets and situations where things go fast, things go on multiple offers still, just not as widespread as before. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.